It's Car Con Carne. Let's eat in the car. It's Car Con Carne. And now here's the star of our show, James VanOsdol.
Yes, this is still Car Con Carne. I am not JVO, but don't worry, JVO will be back. Car Con Carne is a Q101 podcast, and I'm from Q101. I'm Kevin Kellam. You've seen me here with JVO in the past, and don't worry, he'll be back, and we're still giving you the delicious dessert of an audible conversation you need to hear. Greg Prato, a great prolific rock writer. You've seen his work in Rolling Stone. He has a new book, Alternative for the Masses. We'll talk about the alternative rock boom of the 90s and many different characters and players within it. But Car Con Carne is sponsored by Easy Automation. If you're looking to transform your home, your office, your business into a smart, seamlessly connected space, Easy Automation is the way to do it. They deliver custom automation solutions for you, tailored to your lifestyle. Their expert team designs, installs personalized systems from lighting to climate control to audiovisual distribution to robust Wi-Fi networks, all managed through an intuitive app on your favorite device. Easy Automation makes technology work for you effortlessly, reliably, and always with your satisfaction guaranteed. You can go to easy-automation.net. That's easy-automation.net. Or you can call our man Dan, yes, Dan, at 630-730-3728. That's 630-730-3728. And take control of your environment today. Car Con Carne is sponsored by Exploding House Printing. Yes, truly local brand listeners. You need to get the word out. You need something that people can hold in their hand. It's time to check out Exploding House Printing. They can help you with your screen printing, embroidery, and other merch needs. Yes, they're based in Hermosa, so they know what's going on around us. They know local businesses. They know creatives, which is you. They've worked with Logan Arcade, Gino's East, Sure, Dante's Pizzeria. I've been to all those places and spent money with them, so why don't you check out Exploding House Printing? Yes, Exploding House has been doing printing for decades, which means they have the expertise and the little magic to make your stuff great. Exploding House delivers production efficiency, cost awareness to offer a boutique print shop quality at a much lower large print shop price. You can check out their Instagram at Exploding House. That's at Exploding House, or go to their website, or just email info@explodinghouseprinting.com. That's info@explodinghouseprinting.com to get a quote. The 90s. Remember the 90s? I had to wear the 90s rock t-shirt. Yes. Yes, the book is called Alternative for the Masses. Greg Prato. Why is the 90s the biggest time for rock music, seemingly, in terms of like transforming the culture, it seems like?
Well, I mean, people look at that as definitely a transformation type of movement, or an era of rock music history where that happened. But if you back up, there were also some other eras where that definitely happened. You look back at the 60s with the Beatles, then going into the psychedelic movement with bands like The Doors and also the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Again, in the 70s with the whole punk movement, the early 80s with also like new wave, you could say. But then, yeah, of course, in the early 90s, alt-rock, the whole movement, it went beyond just music. It started affecting politics, fashion, media even. So yeah, there have been certain points, but like for me, the reason why early 90s alternative rock holds such a special place in my heart is because I was old enough to be buying the albums as they were coming out at the time, and also going to the shows that were being, like for instance, I was lucky to see the Soundgarden Super Unknown tour. I was able to see Radiohead supporting OK Computer, like all those great those great albums and tours at the time.
What does it mean when I'll get this hard question out of the way, because things age, right? But there is something to be said with that music. Oh, it's aging pretty well. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing about it that doesn't feel like 60s stuff. You can hear it. That's a 60s rock song. That's an 80s rock song. You can hear that sheen of the big, warped out the Bob Rock drums.
Yeah.
Like you can hear that sound. Whereas with the 90s sound, like it's of the 90s, but it does have a sense that it's not losing its luster, and we're over 30 years removed from some of these songs that came out.
Yeah.
But then you have now what, 2-3 generations of people developing this. Like you had Nirvana songs going viral for Gen Z kids recently.
Yeah. Well, the thing, and I talk about this in the book, are the production and just the sonics of a lot of those early to mid 90s alternative rock bands. It's timeless because, like you were just saying, it did not reflect the late 80s highly studio enhanced sound productions like the Def Leppard type sound, or the sound, like there was a famous drum sound where it was a bass drum that sounded like a cannon going off. It was a very reverb sound, which is very, very dated sounding when you listen back to some of those albums. But what was so great about the early 90s alternative rock in particular are producers like Steve Albini, Butch Vig, and a gentleman named Paul Q. Calderi. What they did with their productions is it was more a throwback to the 70s, where it was really just the sound of a band playing live in a room, like such as I'm thinking about such albums as Physical Graffiti from the band Led Zeppelin, Nevermind the Bollocks from Sex Pistols, Rock and Roll Over by the band Kiss, like where it was more of a live sound. It wasn't a studio enhanced sound.
Mhm. You brought up Steve Albini. He is someone that has Illinois, Chicago rock roots. Uh, Probably less than 2 miles is where he recorded some of those big records away from me. And he of course produced, the record of the 90s, with Nirvana. Tell me about this. Why is he's such a great representative of that time? Because he's so genuine, such a representative, just smart ass. Like, no, we're doing it this way. Where that almost was, he was genuine counterculture while also being a part of some of these like seismically like different things at the back end of it, not the front end of it.
Right. Well, yeah, no, Steve Albini, like I was saying, him and also Butch Vig, just the whole 70s thing. It was, yeah, because one thing I just want to say too about Steve Albini is it's actually kind of sad. To the best of my knowledge, I believe he gave me one of his last major phone interviews because I called him when I was doing this book. And I just happened to, from a tip, was told, yeah, just call him at his studio. He'll pick up. You can see if he wants to do the interview or not. So I just called him, and it just so happened that he was there. I told him who I was, what the project I was working on. He was all for it. So we did a nice interview. And then sadly, about maybe 2 or 3 months later, I come to find out that he sadly passed away. So it was just great speaking with him because he told me all about like the microphones he used and also his production techniques and the bands he worked with. He talked about working on the classic Nirvana album In Utero that he worked on, but also working with PJ Harvey, the Pixies, and all the other great bands. So yeah, Steve Albini, I think will go down absolutely, or he already is going down as one of the great rock producers ever.
So, what do you think of this music? You have so many different people and personalities in it on this record. Matt Pinfield from MTV 120 Minutes. You had MTV getting on board. You had rock radio, like the stations I'm on, especially Coast to Coast. It wasn't one specific thing. Everyone says Seattle was like one city with a bunch of different bands. All the labels go there. But maybe the chip on my shoulders, because I'm, coming from Chicago and Illinois. How much did the Midwest get involved in this? Because it wasn't just, it's all the Seattle bands, though that was a majority of it, though.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, one thing is grunge was really the focus, especially early in the 90s, like 91, 92. But then some of my favorite bands from the 90s and even the 80s were not from Seattle, like the Meat Puppets were from Phoenix, I believe. So that was a band I absolutely love. You had bands like Shudder to Think, which were from Washington, as was also the band Fugazi. From New York, you had Helmet and you had White Zombie coming out of there. So there were bands, but of course back in the 80s with Husker Du, we had them coming out of course, Minneapolis. So it wasn't just Seattle, but of course that was really where MTV and media was really focusing in 91, 92, 93.
There you go. So for you, is there a story that you interviewed so many people for this book, by the way. Fred Armisen is in it, Les Claypool's in it. You somehow got to have a conversation that hopefully was able to be reprinted and not offend anyone from Al Jurgensen. And just a lot of personalities in this. Is there one story you weren't expecting that you got here that you're like, oh, what did you just say? Like, because you have that many conversations, law of averages, you're going to hear something you didn't expect to hear.
Yeah, there were some stories, definitely. There was a story I interviewed a gentleman from the band The Frogs that maybe not too many people know about, but they were a great band from also the 90s. And he talks about how the Frogs had a sample of one of their songs used in the Beck song called Where It's At. And you just assume, like, all right, that was a huge song, a huge video from a very big album. You must have a pretty big, royalty payday from that. But it turns out it was the complete opposite, that either their label or their record company at the time just didn't do their research or something, and they wound up just getting paid a flat fee, which he said was pretty. I forget the exact amount, but he equated it just to a week's salary just at working a job. So that was kind of sad and also shocking to hear. But yeah, there were also some other stories, such as there's a famous story that goes around about Fugazi was supposedly offered $1 million recording contract with Atlantic Records and also Ahmet Ertegun, and that they may or may not have turned it down. I don't want to give it away, but I spoke with Ian MacKay from Fugazi, and he finally went on record explaining what the true story was behind that. And he does, in fact, say if they turned it down or not, and also why if they turned it down.
I mentioned younger people discovering this music. Is there something fun or annoying? And this is just me because I have to allow it to happen because I grew up at the time when all that stuff started to hit. When you started to go and buy those records, you started to do that. Maybe more near the end of the 90s for me going into it, but it was seismic. I had 3 older siblings. So everybody had CDs. The first time you got a CD, a physical album, there was something romantic about that. Some generations, they have just a song. Maybe they just have a song, and that's still very special. Is there something special, though, when you see someone who's 15 or 16 discovering a band, picking up an instrument, and they're talking about a band that you found when you were 15 or 16 or going to find their Soundgarden?
Yeah, I mean, it's always great. I mean, I really think a lot of these bands, the bands that and artists that we cover in this book, Alternative for the Masses, it really is timeless. And the whole point of really me doing this book was I wanted to shine the light. Of course, people think about Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, Nine Inch Nails, like the really, really big bands, but there were also lesser known bands that if someone picks up this book, hopefully they'll either rediscover or just totally discover bands like Slint, and bands like Sebadoh and bands like Grantley Buffalo, and the list goes on and on. So yeah, I hope that's what this book accomplishes.
There's also this smart-ass sense in all of the music. There were some songs. Yeah, I have an hour of 90s rock I'll do here, and we'll play some tracks. I'm like, you can never put that out any other time of the year. Like there's no other time frame that I don't think I would hear the song from the Flaming Lips, She Don't Use Jelly, on the radio if it came out now. I think you would hear it if it came out when it came out. You know what I mean? I don't think Weezer could come out now and be Weezer. There's something is there something to be said for there was just a general zeitgeist. I'll use a word I heard once in Rolling Stone, like I do in conversation. What do you think of that smart ass sense of humor that kind of underlined all of it at the same time?
Well, you brought up a very good point, which is it really all has to do with timing and like when an album comes out. Like, for instance, I don't think Nirvana Nevermind would have hit the way it did if it came out in 1987 at the height of like Def Leppard Hysteria type productions and things like that. Just the same way, like, I don't think Jimi Hendrix Are You Experienced would have had the same impact it did if it came out in like the late 50s or like early 60s with like the, uh like whatever kind of like squeaky clean pop type stuff that was popular at that point. So it really has to do with timing and everything. I think that really is what it that was really the whole thing that was behind the success of these bands.
The book is Alternative for the Masses. Where can they get it? When exactly does it come out?
Yeah, so it's already available. It's available on Amazon, I would say, is the easiest place to get it. It's available as a hardcover, a Kindle, and also audio version.
There you go. Love that. The audio version always gets me. So I think
Yes.
that may be the route I go.
Right.
All right. So my final question. This is the one that aggravates me the most, and I have to answer it. And I still don't know how to answer it as a rock radio DJ. How do you
Okay.
answer it as a rock radio writer or rock
Mhm.
writer, rock
Mhm.
musician, journalist? Is 90s alternative classic rock? Have we become because it's one thing to say it's classic, but to say it's classic rock feels like you're trying on your dad's jeans a little bit. And you got to get used to it.
I would say it absolutely is classic rock because I considered it classic rock back when it was coming out in the first place. Because
Okay.
for me and also all my friends, I know that we were just not we weren't listening solely to Soundgarden, Smashing Pumpkins, and also Pearl Jam. We were listening to that, but we were also still listening to our Rush albums from the 70s. We were still listening to Jimi Hendrix from the 60s. We were still listening to Devo from the 80s. So even as far back as, when I was listening to, I think back to 1994 when Super Unknown came out by Soundgarden. I had that point just discovered the Rolling Stones, like, beyond like the big hits. Like I had just discovered the Rolling Stones really heavily. I had just discovered Funkadelic really heavily, and I had just discovered also David Bowie beyond just like the hits and things like that. So yeah, it was, to me, it was always timeless, and it always fit in very well with the best of the best.
Alternative for the masses. We appreciate it here. Thank you so
Great.
much for the time, Greg. And
Thanks for
I'm
having
looking
me.
forward. Hopefully I get to see you at the Lollapaloozas or the Riot Fest at some point.
Yes. Great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.